used to think that if danger was real, it would announce itself. A loud crash, a broken lock, something obvious enough that you couldn't explain it away. That belief didn't survive what happened to a man named Ethan. Ethan lived alone in a small rented house on the edge of a quiet town. Nothing isolated, nothing run down. The kind of neighborhood where people waved, lawns were trimmed, and nothing truly bad ever seemed to happen. He worked long hours, came home exhausted, and followed the same routine every day. And that routine became the perfect cover for everything he didn't want to question. It started with sounds. Not bangs or crashes, just soft, forgettable noises. A light thump late at night, a faint scrape that stopped the moment he focused on it. The kind of sounds people blame on old houses settling. Ethan did exactly that. He told himself it was the wood expanding, the pipes cooling, air moving through spaces you never really think about. He'd heard those explanations his entire life, and they'd always been enough. So when he heard something shift in the hallway one night, he didn't get up. He just turned over and waited for it to stop. And it did. That became the pattern. Every strange sound came with a reasonable explanation, and every explanation brought relief, because admitting something worse would have meant disrupting his routine. A few weeks later, other things started happening. Not missing items, just misplaced ones. His shoes weren't where he remembered leaving them. The bathroom light would be off when he was sure he'd left it on. Cabinet doors were sometimes open just an inch or two, never wide enough to draw attention, but enough to feel wrong. Ethan noticed, but noticing didn't mean acting. Have you ever stood in a room, felt something was off, and then kept going anyway? That's what he did. He told himself he was tired, overworked, distracted. He even joked about it to a coworker once, laughing it off like it was nothing. That laugh made it easier to ignore the next thing. The smell. It wasn't strong, it wasn't constant, just a faint, sour odor that came and went. It lingered near the back of the house, close to the laundry room and the small storage space beside it. Ethan blamed the plumbing. He bought air fresheners instead of asking questions. At night, he started locking his bedroom door, not because he felt threatened, at least not consciously. It just felt safer, like a habit he didn't remember forming. Sometimes he'd wake up around 3 in the morning with the sense that something had changed. The air felt heavier. The silence felt pressed in on him. Once he thought he heard breathing. He held his breath to listen. When it stopped, he told himself it had been his own. Days passed, then weeks. Nothing was broken. No alarms went off. No signs of forced entry. Everything important still worked the way it always had. That's what made it dangerous. One evening, Ethan came home earlier than usual. The sun was barely gone, the sky still dim blue. As he unlocked the front door, he noticed the smell again. stronger this time, still faint but impossible to deny. He stepped inside, closed the door, and froze. The hallway light was on. He knew he hadn't left it that way. Fear didn't hit him immediately. Confusion did. He stood there longer than he should have, listening. The house was quiet, too quiet. No movement, no sound. He walked through the rooms slowly, heart beating harder with each step. Everything looked normal. Furniture untouched, windows locked. Then he reached the back of the house. The storage door was open, only slightly. Ethan stared at the narrow, dark gap, feeling something tighten in his chest. He told himself it was airflow, pressure, anything except what his instincts were trying to say. He closed the door, locked it, and went to bed. That night, he didn't sleep, because for the first time since the noises started, they didn't stop when he listened. They waited.
Ethan lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe around him. Every creak felt deliberate now. Every small sound carried weight. He told himself that if something were truly wrong, it would happen suddenly, loudly, obviously. But nothing did. And that was the problem. Around 3 in the morning, he heard it again. A soft movement, closer this time. Not in the walls, not in the pipes, on the floor. It was slow, careful, like someone who knew exactly how much noise they could afford to make. Ethan didn't move. He barely breathed. He stared at the closed bedroom door, watching the thin line of light beneath it. For a moment, it stayed the same. Then the light shifted, just slightly, as if a shadow had passed in front of it. His heart started racing, but his body refused to react. He stayed frozen, convincing himself that fear was exaggerating everything, that exhaustion was making his mind fill in gaps that weren't really there. The shadow didn't return. The house went quiet again. Morning came without incident, and with daylight came confidence. Ethan felt embarrassed by how scared he'd been. In the clear light of day, the house looked harmless, ordinary. He showered, dressed, and even laughed at himself for letting his imagination get out of control. That's how quickly fear fades when nothing bad happens. Over the next few days, the signs became harder to ignore. Food he didn't remember opening was suddenly missing. A chair at the kitchen table was sometimes pulled out just a little. Once, he found the bathroom mirror wiped clean in the center, as if someone had leaned close enough to fog it with their breath and then wiped it away. That was the moment Ethan finally admitted something was wrong. Still, he didn't imagine what was actually happening. He bought a small security camera and placed it in the living room, angled toward the hallway and kitchen. He told himself it was just for peace of mind. He didn't expect to see anything. The first night, the footage showed nothing. The second night, it showed something worse. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the camera feed flickered. The timestamp jumped forward by a few seconds. Then, the hallway light turned on. Ethan watched the recording over and over, his stomach tightening each time. No one entered the frame. No one left it. The light simply turned on. The third night, the camera went offline completely. That was when Ethan decided to leave. He packed a bag, telling himself he'd stay with a friend for a few days. As he moved through the house, grabbing clothes and essentials, he noticed something he hadn't before. The storage door near the laundry room. It looked wrong, slightly warped, misaligned, like it had been opened and closed far more often than it should have been. Ethan opened it. Inside was darkness. Tight, confined darkness. The smell hit him immediately, stronger than ever. Old food. Sweat. Something unmistakably human. He stepped back, heart pounding. That's when he saw the marks on the floor. Bare footprints, partially wiped away but still visible if you knew where to look. They led from the storage space, toward the hallway, toward his bedroom. Ethan called the police. They searched the house room by room. Everything looked normal at first. Clean. Lived in by one person. Then they opened the storage space completely. Behind a false panel, they found a narrow crawl area Ethan never knew existed. Inside were blankets, empty food containers, bottled water, and a phone charger plugged into an extension cord running through the wall. Someone had been living there. Not for days, for months. The officers later explained that the man had been entering the house while Ethan was at work. He knew Ethan's schedule, knew when it was safe to move, knew how to stay quiet. At night, he'd leave the crawl space, sit in the living room, use the kitchen, sometimes stand outside Ethan's bedroom door, listening. That was the part Ethan couldn't forget. Because when the officers asked how long the man had been there, the answer was longer than Ethan had lived alone. He hadn't moved in after Ethan. He'd already been there. The house was never empty. Ethan just took too long to notice. And that's the part that stays with you. Not every horror story begins with something breaking in. Sometimes, it starts with something that never left.